Ladies and gentlemen, I did it. I survived the great server crisis of 2025, managed to get online in Fallout 76, play Burning Springs, complete all the content that was there, and now I'm sitting down to deliver some thoughts. And you may think to yourself after hearing all that, well, that was pretty quick, because like the servers kind of just started to get online in a proper way like last night, Matty. And that's pretty much the whole point of this review, as I'll get into. Now, to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, this update in Burning Springs was touted by Bethesda as the biggest update yet. These are not the words of YouTubers who have hyped it up. This is not the words of the community who is hoping it'll be that. You can check the headlines, you can check the Bethesda Net article, you can check the comments in the interview. This was called their biggest update ever. And that's saying something because Wastelanders does exist. Back in 2020, Bethesda overhauled the base game map of Fallout 76. They added like a 15-hour story. All of this was in there for free, plus some endgame content. Like, it was a complete rethinking of Fallout 76. It was ambitious and it was awesome. It totally helped the game start to recover when it dropped on Steam that same week. So when I hear this is your biggest update ever, I'm like, quest content aside, like, that's going to be a lot. Okay, let's see what we got here. So Burning Springs expands the base game map similar to Skyline Valley, where you now have a new location that you can explore. It goes to the west and you're going to Ohio, and it boasts Walton Goggins as the ghoul, and he gives you the ability to bounty hunt as a repeatable objective that you can do in the open world. There are also some fresh new locations to explore in this new biome. They added some updates to the Gleaming Depths, which is a raid location for those who are unaware. There's a new camp pet in the Radhog, some new fish that you can get, some legendary mods that you can apply to your equipment, and a new quest line to boot. So there's stuff here for sure, but I'll be blunt. Calling this the biggest update ever was a mistake, and that's because it was flat out untrue. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but sadly, this is the case. And the problem is that I did gauge my expectations, I think, very fairly in Bethesda's favor, because I had the privilege to go to a Fallout 76 Burning Springs preview event. We had the opportunity to talk to heads of Bethesda like John Rush and Bill Lacoste and get some more information on what exactly this update would bring. And when people were asking about like how big this update would be, like how long is the quest line, we were told 6 to 10 hours. When I heard that combined with biggest update ever, I gave them some leeway thinking, okay, this might be for like the end game grinders. There might be like a lot of content here for them, but maybe not for people like me who enjoy just the questing and the looting and the exploration, you know, the more traditional Fallout experience. But I think even with those gauged expectations and taking away any kind of critiques I have on a quality level, this woefully undershot my expectations on multiple levels. Like, I thought this would be pretty good. I don't think it was, but also I thought this would be at least more than Skyline Valley, and it didn't really feel that way to me personally, but I know for the repeatable content here, it's technically bigger. We'll start to break all of that down. Anyway, what did I do here? Well, I finished the main quest for this new update, the DLC's only side quest as well. That took me 4 hours. I'm about to pull an Angry Joe here. 4 hours. I also saw the new events they added. I did a bunch of bounty hunting in that time. And again, I'm fully aware that some of the content in this update, such as the bounty hunts or the gearing up events, are repeatable, which is part of the grind for Fallout 76. But I think even with this in mind, it feels a little barren to me. And to be clear, before I really dive into things, I'm not belaboring this point for any other reason than it just comes nowhere close to what constitutes to me as an extremely massive update. And even ignoring that element, which some people may be saying about this point, well, you're just hung up on that. I think this update is problematic on multiple levels. The stories that are here are flat in both their setup, delivery, and style of communicating that story, as I'll get into. It's very launch 76 status, but also the implementation of some of that repeatable endgame content is confusing at best. I think the unfortunate critique I have above all else is that a lot of this did remind me of Fallout 76 when it first came out. Like, more than half of the locations are basically dedicated to a single side quest in this update, which dumps its entire story into your lap via holotapes, which are given to you from an NPC that you can talk to. So it just feels like a reminder of the bad times. While at the same time, I could have just had a conversation with another human being in this world, but I guess that would have been asking for too much. But worst of all, at least in my experience, and I was playing the PS4 version on my PS5, so it may be different for those of you on PC, where it seems to be a better time for 76, to be fair, but there were bugs. Fortunately, these were not launch state bad, to be clear, but for me at least, when I think of all the updates I've covered for 76, the bugs were probably the worst I've seen them since the expeditions first came to the game a few years ago with the pit. But my friends, I'm not even talking server crashes, which I experienced a few of. I'm talking T-poses for NPCs. I'm talking broken AI in combat. I'm talking quests failing on me. Those sorts of issues that are in your face constantly and hurt your experience. That's what I'm talking about. And this is how we get to the conclusion I've come to be very clear. It's not just, oh, I wanted big content, big story, and I didn't get that. It's like, it's here. It's not very good. I think it's undercooked in a lot of ways. And I think worst of all, it reintroduces a lot of really bad bugs to the game. And so let's start breaking it down more on a quality level now that you have a more holistic idea of everything I'm looking at here. So I want to start off with the story stuff because, I mean, let's be frank, you're going to get a bunch of other Fallout 76 player impressions from like the end game grinders, level 4000s out there and whatnot. That's not who I am. My highest account right now is like a level 100, and I enjoy jumping in, playing the stories, and kind of hopping out. I'm your fair weather Fallout 76 player that I think represents the more single player demographic of that community, and I think there's still value in that. So looking at the main story here, you get a distress signal on your Pip-Boy, as you do with many of these new Fallout updates, or even dating back to like OG Fallout 3 DLC. But anyway, you get a waypoint after listening to this distress signal, and you go and find a Rust Raider camp. You go to save a woman, you get bashed in the back of the head, and you meet the Rust King. The Rust King is the king of the wasteland, and you have to prove your worth to him. So you survive in his arena, and from there, the quest is good to go, because now you have to really prove your worth to him, which I found to be not the most interesting hook, because it kind of felt like you as the player had to kind of warp your brain around the idea of like, I could just not want to do this. Like, why would my character feel compelled to do this other than live service game with new content? But ignoring all of that, you may remember something that I mentioned from my Fallout 76 preview, which was that I was a little bit worried that this main story would be padded. So after everything I described to you is a quest line that features challenges, which I don't remember ever seeing in any other part of 76, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But basically what happens in this challenge is now you have to prove yourself to Mr. Big Bad Rust King. So you have to complete the Test of Might, which I think went by pretty easily. That didn't take me too long to do. And then the Test of Dominance. And the challenges I had to complete were things like killing a bunch of Rust Raiders. I had to critical hit them in VATS, which as a melee character build, I did not have a good time with that one. I had to complete a premium headhunt, which ran me 5,000 credits. More on that in a little bit. And I had to kill 5 legendary enemies. Now, this took me about like almost 2 hours to get through this part. This was easily the longest stretch of the game for me. In fairness, I do think Season 76 players may have more of an easy time with this and may breeze through it a lot easier than me. I do think, sadly, this reinforces my point, but if that sounds long compared to your average 76 player, it's probably because it is. So now you know these two quest lines, and that's important because I did not realize when I went to the preview event and got to this point in the story, which is really where it starts, that I was already halfway done with that story. So after these 2 tests are done, I fired it up, played for another hour, and the story for the zone was done. And it was a little bit of that, let me try to describe it. You know that quiet moment where you're like holding your controller, looking at the TV, the ambient sounds are just kind of drifting by your ears and your brain's just going and you're trying to think things through? That's the moment you kind of go through and you're like, oh, my mind was just blown. Or you go through the moment I did where you're like, that was it. Like I was staring at my screen waiting for the Vault Boy to pop up being like, new quest begins, because the ending was kind of unfulfilling. It was set up for more, and there was no repeatable end game objective, which at least would have made sense with a certain character at the end of this story. But it's just like, I'll have use for you in the future, Wastelander. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So yeah, it's a 4 quest long story, and that was a shocker to me. I don't care if people are out there like, well, the repeatable content, we'll talk about that in a second here. But for me, I looked at my PS5 play clock and I went from like 151 hours to 155. So it had risen 4 hours after its biggest update yet. I don't find that particularly acceptable with what was marketed to me. And at least if it was great, I probably would care less. It's also just like the form of the delivery. I mean, I get the suspicion that maybe Goggins kind of absorbed the budget. You know, it's an expensive man to get in your game, and I commend them for getting him in there. We'll talk about him in just a little bit as well here. But the main story has voice acting like this.
There's no way! No! Fuck! You're lying! How did he die? Tell me. Now! Raiders! Of course it was raiders! I'm sick of them! Sick of them! I'll kill every last one of those goddamn raiders! Especially the one they call King. I want my revenge now!
Mind you, that final line there where he talks about, like, I'll kill that person, especially that king, that just happened to be the character that I was trying to kill. It's like, oh, funny that. Yeah, like, let's, you and me are going to get along fine. It's that sort of, like, corny writing that I see in 76 a lot, and I get it. Like, it's an online game, but, like, it is one of those things where it's not even me putting on my Fallout elitist cap and being like, yo, this isn't Fallout, bro. Like, I'm not even going there with it. I'm just more so thinking about, like, this just is lousy writing. Like, it's just like, why are characters talking like cornballs? Like, it feels like we found this archetype for the Raider in Fallout 3 of like the, yeah, you like the sight of your own blood? And like, that's been the only Raider type we've gotten for over a decade now. It's like there's been no nuance to them at all, and they just sound worse and worse in 76. 76 has never had like incredible voice talent coming in. Most of the main characters they get, I think, do have great talent, but you can tell where they're like squeezing the budget here. And so, yeah, that form of delivery I don't find particularly compelling or exciting. And then you get to the side content here. So there is one new side quest added to this, which sounds crazy when you say it out loud, but it's called a collectible quest. This is a new quest type, and it's effectively a treasure hunt. So you have these briefcases all around these locations in the Burning Springs called Abraxdine Intel cases. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to collect these, and eventually you're going to find out, oh, I can go to Albany and I can deliver these to someone who might be making use of them. So you go to this individual, and it turns out there's a whole story here involving collecting these cases. And I'm like, all right, that doesn't sound the most appetizing. It, again, sounds very base 76 kind of content there. But all right, let's see what's going on here. So I grab the Intel cases, I turn them in, and the guy just keeps going, okay, I'm handing this over to you now. You listen to it, let me know what you think. And I'm like, what's he talking about, right? This is like a whole NPC driving this quest line looking for his daughter. And I don't converse with this dude at all. He proceeds to hand me 4 holotapes, and they're just dumped in my lap, and you just listen to them back to back to back to back. And it's like really long holotapes where I was there listening to them for like 5 to 8 minutes, if I remember correctly. And I'm like, wow. So they're just going back to this style of storytelling here. The style of storytelling that people revolted against so much that it gave birth to Wastelanders. And it just feels like it defeats the purpose of the storyline. Like, the guy's right there. Why can't we listen to the holotape together? Or maybe I listen to it and then I can talk to him afterwards. Like, something that makes it more interactive. I don't feel like I'm asking for the world here. But anyway, after you do enough of this, which I did, eventually you'll have collected enough intel cases, and he'll give you these coordinates to a cache. So I'm like, okay, maybe this will finally advance the story and we can go from here. Well, I found the cache, and I would hold X to open it, and it would just say it's empty on the top left corner of the screen. So I couldn't progress this quest line. And I read online that server hopping would fix this, because basically what seems to be happening here is this object in the world is being registered as like player individualized. So if anyone in the server dared to open that cache and I go into that server, then I'm cooked until I get into a server that someone hasn't opened this in. Or you can go into your own private server. That's at least what I read from people who are playing on the PTS. But point being is that you can't complete this quest line, and I just found that to be the most infuriating aspect of it all, because I'm like, man, nothing rubs me the wrong way more than not being able to finish my storylines that I put time into. And so then I proceed to start bounty hunting more, because like many of you, I'm a huge fan of Walton Goggins. And so that was like the main draw for me, and I imagine many others right now. And when the show comes out, definitely so. You're going to be like, yeah, I want my GOAT Goggins. If my GOAT Goggins is here and he's awesome and he's active and he's involved, I don't really care about the rest. And I was honestly ready to be there with all of you. I think, just to be clear, Goggins does a great job here. Like, it sounds like the ghoul. I think the writing for him is pretty solid. Like, yeah, this is the ghoul. But like, you also just get one good conversation with him, and from there, you settle into these repeatable bounty hunts that don't really progress into much or get any real reactions out of him. They're called grunt hunts, and these will carry you around the map to take out enemies, and that's kind of it, which is to be expected in bounty hunts. Maybe my expectations were high here, but I kind of thought that there would be a quest leading into this aspect of the game. But it does scale on its own here, where as you do more, you get these higher level legendary targets that you're going to hunt down, and then you'll even get like the new legendary mods here. So yes, one of the additions to this is now you have already your legendary weapons. You can modify them, but then you have legendary mods for your legendary weapons. So, I mean, you already know how I feel about where Bethesda Game Studios has gone with the loot. I try not to fight with this part of the game too much because I know it's pretty well established and a lot of the player base likes it. So I'm just kind of shouting into the void in my own little corner here. So this is fine. You know, like I think the only disappointing part is I wanted more Goggins, and given that just everything feels so barren here, I was hoping like, oh, because you gave all the budget to him, but he's just kind of there, gives you your initial quest, and that's sort of it. So then there's another form of a quest that you can do here with Goggins, which is a premium headhunt. So you get to pay 5,000 caps to do this. You can also have the chance to loot it off some of your targets that you hunted, so then you can get this poster and like stamp it on the wall, and that's cool and all. But I was looking at the community reception to this element from the PTS, and I agree that I just find the whole paying 5,000 caps to do an event like this weird. I mean, who had the idea of paying to fight things? And what's underwhelming about it is you'll pay for it and then it'll tell the entire map, hey, this event's going on. And so what happens is everyone goes and shows up and the event's over like that. So you paid 5,000 caps and probably didn't even get a chance to fight the thing that was there for the bounty hunt. You get the loot, and that's great and all. And certainly as someone who's been on both ends, I've paid for the headhunt. I've also dipped in on someone else's headhunt, and it's nice to be the person dipping in. And I think that's what this price tag kind of fosters, is like, I'm just gonna wait for someone else to do it. Because after a certain point, I did not see many headhunts going on. You're basically guaranteed 3 legendary drops, and that's on top of like what these enemies are gonna drop themselves. So basically what you're doing here is just kind of paying for the loot. And I imagine the hardcore 76 players are just going to find other ways to get their legendary loot here. But this is no doubt the element geared most towards the end game players. And I think even ignoring the whole, I'm going to be annoying for a second here, idea of like 5,000 caps per poster really breaks the idea of what bottle caps were and their scarcity in the wasteland. It also just kind of feels like you're punishing your players to grind for caps, to then grind for a chance to get a ton of legendaries. And then when they go through that whole process, like it's not even something they really get to play. So I think the whole implementation, as I said at the top of this video, was a little bit confusing. So that's the bounty hunting experience. I think the grunt hunts are fine enough, but I do think you're kind of left wanting more from Goggins there. And then the sort of big hunts that all the players get in on, just kind of over in a flash and weirdly pricey. And so the last thing I want to wrap up on is just reminding you all that I experienced legacy bugs on top of everything else here. You know, the T-poses were there occasionally. There were moments the map was flickering, the lighting was flickering. There were moments that enemies were spawning right in front of me. And I mean, that's not even acknowledging what events have kind of become now, which are just these enemy spam fests. Like I did the Gearing Up event, and in this event, dude, I was literally spawn camping snallygasters. Like it just, I don't know, man. This is what it is now. This is what it is. It's just explosions and guns firing everywhere. It's the loudest thing of all time. But ignoring that, like there were just locations I'd enter where enemies would spawn on me. And again, that's not accounting for like quest issues, server issues. Like I imagine this is a lot like what happened with Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition. This will be smoothed over for the TV show fans. I think the hardcore who's hung around with this is going to be disappointed on multiple levels. I mean, for me, as someone who was authentically like, I could wrap my brain around maybe one day accepting 76 is the best part of Fallout right now. But when this even missed, I went, man, should I really feel confident that the TV show is going to be great? Like, I'm scared now. I'm like, even every safe bet, like I've cursed this franchise ever since I went, you know what? I like being comfortably excited. I talked about 76 and Burning Springs, and I talked about season 2, and I was like, it's going to be great. I've said this before. I just need to shut the hell up. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to share my thoughts on Fallout 76, Burning Springs, my time with it. and let you all know how it went in case you thought about dipping in. For those who are looking for a more holistic Fallout 76 breakdown, don't worry, we'll be doing that when Season 2 launches, just like we kind of did last year. I'm going to be checking out some other content and throwing more time into this game to kind of give a more well-rounded view of the game beyond this update, because I think the only benefit I can say about Burning Springs is if you're kind of a new player coming in, you got all this stuff around you. This, in addition to everything, I guess is nice, but I think just looking at it on a singular level is like, it's just not good enough. So for its biggest update ever, I found it a bit of a miss. I don't know what they're going to do when they reload the chamber here. Like, what's 2026's big update? We'll see. But ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on Burning Springs. I look forward to hearing yours down below. Fire away. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all.